In the ancient city of Umuoa, where the earth was forever stained red and the wind spoke in riddles only elders claimed to understand, lived a man named Obinna. He was known in the community not for wealth or power, but for his quiet steadiness. Obinna repaired farming tools, broken hoes, cracked cutlasses, bent sickles, breathing life back into metal others had discarded. Many said he treated iron with more care than most men treated people. Obinna lived alone in a mud brick house at the edge of the village, close enough to hear the drums during festivals, yet far enough to avoid gossip. His days were long, his earnings small, but his conscience remained stubbornly rich. In Umuoa, such men were rare and often overlooked. That evening, the sun sank slowly behind the tall iroko trees, spilling golden light across the nearly empty market square. Vendors packed up their baskets, chickens were herded home, and the air carried the mixed scent of smoke, spices, and dust. Obinna tied his tools together, slung them over his shoulder, and picked up his evening meal: boiled yam wrapped in banana leaves, a small calabash of palm oil, and one dried fish. It was not much, but it was enough. As he walked, his thoughts drifted. The harvest had been poor this season, prices were rising. Life felt tighter, like a rope being pulled inch by inch around his chest. Still, he reminded himself of his late mother's words: "A man who eats alone feeds only his stomach. A man who shares feeds his spirit." Near the old shrine at the edge of the market, Obinna noticed a small figure curled beside a broken wooden stall. At first, he thought it was a bundle of rags. Then the bundle moved. It was a girl. She could not have been more than 12 or 13. Her dress was torn and faded beyond its original color. Dust clung to her skin, and her hair was tangled like abandoned fishing nets. Her eyes, large, dark, and painfully alert, followed Obinna as he slowed his steps. She said nothing. In Umuoa, people had learned to look away from such sights. Hunger was common. Orphans were many. Compassion, however, was considered expensive. Obinna hesitated. His fingers tightened around his food bundle. He felt the familiar argument rise within him. If I give her this, what will I eat tonight? His stomach answered with a sharp twist. Then the girl coughed, a dry, hollow sound, like a drum with torn skin. Without another thought, Obinna knelt before her. He unwrapped the yam and broke it in half, pouring palm oil over the pieces. He placed the larger portion gently in her trembling hands. "Eat," he said softly. The girl stared at the food as though it might vanish by the night. Slowly, she looked up at him. "Why?" she whispered. Obinna shrugged, a faint smile on his lips. "Because tonight, hunger should not defeat us both." As the girl began to eat, the wind shifted. Somewhere deep in the forest, unseen drums echoed once, low, distant, and watching. The girl ate as though she feared the food might be snatched away by the night itself. Her hands trembled, yet she tried to keep her movements small and polite, as if good manners might convince the world not to punish her again. Obinna watched in silence, the weight of his own hunger settling deeper into his belly, but his heart felt strangely lighter. When she finished, she licked her fingers and carefully folded the banana leaves, placing them beside her as if they were something precious. Then she sat very still, eyes lowered. "What is your name?" Obinna asked gently. For a long moment she did not answer. The market square had gone quiet now, the last footsteps fading into the distance. The sky deepened from orange to indigo, and the first stars appeared, sharp and watchful. "I don't know," she said at last. Obinna frowned. "Everyone has a name." "They took it," the girl replied, her voice flat. When my mother died, they said I didn't need it anymore." The words struck Obinna harder than hunger ever could. He had heard of such cruelty, relatives who swallowed inheritances, neighbors who turned children into servants, families that erased inconvenient mouths, but he had never heard it spoken so plainly by a child. "Where are you from?" he asked gently. She pointed vaguely toward the forest path leading east, beyond the Black River, a village that no longer calls itself by its old name. Obinna felt a chill. The Black River was feared. Elders said spirits lived along its banks, spirits that remembered old promises and old betrayals. Few crossed it willingly. Night thickened around them. Obinna glanced toward the shrine, its carved wooden face half hidden in shadows. Tradition warned against lingering there after dark, especially with strangers. Yet leaving the girl alone felt unthinkable. "You can't sleep here," he said. "The night guards will come. They are not kind." The girl's shoulders tensed. "I can go," she said quickly, rising to her feet. "I won't trouble you again." Obinna stood up as well. He was not a large man, but there was a firmness in the way he held himself. "No, you will come with me." She looked at him, eyes wide. "To where?" "To my home," he replied. "Just for the night." Suspicion flickered across her face, learned and sharp. Then she looked down at her bare feet, cracked and bleeding, and finally nodded. They walked in silence through narrow paths lit only by moonlight. Crickets sang loudly, and somewhere an owl called. Obinna's house emerged from the darkness, small, humble, but warm. Inside, he spread a mat on the floor and gave him his only blanket. As she lay down, her eyes never left him. "You are not afraid of me?" she asked. Obinna paused at the doorway to his sleeping corner. "I think," he said slowly, "fear belongs to those who intend harm." As the girl drifted into sleep, a faint mark glimmered on her wrist, briefly like a dying ember, before vanishing into her skin. Outside, the wind whispered a name no human voice spoke aloud. Obinna lay awake long after the oil lamp burned low. Sleep circled him, but never settled. The girl's breathing was soft and uneven, like someone still learning how to rest without fear. Every time she stirred, Obinna's eyes snapped open, alert as a guard on duty. He told himself it was nothing, a stranger in his house, a child with no name. Any sensible man would be restless. Yet deep inside, he felt something else, an old unease, the kind elders spoke of in low voices, the kind that arrived when the past reached forward and touched the present. The wind slipped through the cracks of the mud walls, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and distant rain. Obinna closed his eyes and tried to pray, but his thoughts drifted instead to his mother's stories. She used to say that kindness was a door, and once opened, one never knew who or what might walk through. Sometime near midnight, the oil lamp flickered. Then it went out. Obinna sat up once. The darkness thickened unnaturally, heavy and pressing, as if the room itself were holding its breath. Outside, the insects fell silent. No crickets, no frogs, no wind. Only stillness. Obinna swung his feet to the ground. "Hello?" he called softly. No answer. A faint glow appeared near the girl's mat. At first, Obinna thought his tired eyes were deceiving him, but the light grew brighter, pulsing gently, rising from her wrist, the same place where earlier he thought he had seen a trick of the moon. Symbols emerged within the glow, not letters, not drawings, but something older. They shifted and turned like living things, burning without heat. Obinna stumbled back, heart pounding. He wanted to shout, to run, to wake the whole village, but his voice refused to obey him. The girl stirred. Her eyes opened. They were not the eyes of a frightened child. They were deep and ancient, reflecting the glowing symbols as if they had seen them many times before. She sat up slowly, her movements calm, deliberate. "Do not be afraid," she said. Her voice echoed, layered with something else, other voices distant and overlapping. Obinna fell to his knees. Who are you?" The girl looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers as if remembering them. "I am called many things, but tonight I am what you fed." The walls of the house seemed to stretch, shadows crawling like living creatures. Outside, thunder rolled through the sky, though the sky was clear.
Arrived in Umuoa with a timid blush, as though even the sun hesitated to witness what had transpired the night before. Obinna awoke with his body heavy, his mind swimming in fragments of dreams and half-remembered whispers. He rubbed his eyes, trying to banish the shadows that clung to him like cobwebs. The girl was gone. Obinna froze. His heart pounded as he searched the small house, under the mat, behind the door, even in the small kitchen nook where he kept his pot of water. Nothing. Not a trace of her except the lingering scent of smoke and earth. He stumbled outside, expecting to find her wandering the street, as children without homes often did. But the market square was empty, quiet, except for the usual morning bustle, a few vendors setting up stalls, a stray goat bleating in the distance. Yet something felt off, unplaceable. The air itself seemed thicker, vibrating in a way that made the hairs on his neck rise. Then he saw it. A small carved box resting on the doorstep. He hadn't seen it the night before. It was made of dark wood, polished until it gleamed, yet covered with strange carvings, symbols that seemed to shift subtly when viewed from the corner of his eye. A faint warmth radiated from it. Obinna's fingers trembled as he lifted the lid. Inside lay a single seed, black and glossy as obsidian, no larger than a grain of corn, yet it pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. Alongside it was a folded strip of leather inscribed with symbols similar to those he had seen glowing on the girl's wrist. He unfolded it carefully. The writing was unlike any language he had ever known. Some characters resembled the patterns of river currents, others resembled leaves caught in the wind. And then, in the center, a single line in a language he could read. "Plant this where your heart fears to tread, and life will speak." Obinna's mind raced. What could it mean? He was a man of simple tools, not mystical seeds or ancient languages. Yet deep inside, something unexplainable tugged at him, a pull he could not resist. A commotion near the market distracted him. Villagers were gathered in small groups, whispering, pointing toward the old abandoned well at the forest's edge. Stories had long circulated about that well. It was said to devour the misfortune of the village, or perhaps the villagers themselves. No one dared go near it. But the girl's gift, the seed, and the night's events had opened something in him. Obinna felt a trembling certainty that the morning's strange energy and the seed were connected to the well. He picked up the seed, staring at it as if it might speak. Then, without fully understanding why, he wrapped it carefully in his cloth and tucked it into his bag. His eyes turned to the well. Sunlight now glimmered faintly over its edge, and for the first time he noticed the faint carvings around it, similar to those on the girl's wrist and the wooden box. Obinna felt fear prickling at the back of his neck, yet it was accompanied by something more potent, curiosity, and an undeniable sense that he had crossed a threshold. Something unseen had opened a door, and he was now on the threshold of a world he had never imagined.
As he walked toward the forest, villagers looked at him oddly, some with suspicion, others with quiet awe. Perhaps they could feel it too, the change that hung in the air, heavy and electric. Obinna reached the old well, standing at its edge and looking down into the dark void. The carvings on the stone walls gleamed faintly, almost alive in the morning light. His hand instinctively went to the seed. "Plant it," a voice whispered inside his head, echoing in the same tone as the girl's voice. "Plant it where fear is strongest. The world will remember." Obinna swallowed hard. His heart beat so fiercely it drowned out the morning sounds. One step forward could change everything. One choice, one small act that could ripple into eternity. And so, trembling yet determined, he knelt and dug into the damp earth near the well, placing the seed where fear itself seemed to linger, a place no villager dared tread. As he covered it, the ground vibrated faintly under his palms, and a whisper of wind circled him, warm, fragrant, and impossibly alive. Something had begun, and Obinna knew, with the same certainty that had guided him to feed the girl, that life was about to speak, and that he would never be the same again. Obinna returned from the well with the seed safely tucked in his bag, yet he could not shake the sensation that eyes followed him everywhere. Even familiar faces in the market seemed altered, their gazes sharper, their smiles just slightly strained, as if they sensed the tremor in reality he had set in motion the moment he planted the seed. He bought a few simple supplies, a small pot of palm oil, yams, and firewood, but the market felt different. The colors of the stalls seemed more vivid, the chatter sharper, almost like it was punctuated by an invisible rhythm only he could hear. Every time a child laughed or a dog barked, Obinna swore the sound carried hidden meaning, a whisper threaded into the ordinary noise. Then he heard it. A faint voice carried on the wind, almost indistinguishable from the crowd. "Obinna! Obinna!" He turned quickly. No one, just the familiar blur of villagers, carts, and chickens. The voice came again, insistent, like it had been waiting decades for him to hear. "Obinna, follow the path." His hand instinctively went to the bag containing the seed. The pulse from it was stronger now, a subtle thrum that he could feel through the cloth. It was almost alive. Obinna knew he could not ignore it. Something extraordinary had been set in motion, and the girl who had no name, was at the center of it. As he walked through the market, his eyes caught a small commotion near the central fountain. A group of villagers had gathered around a young woman whose dress was torn, her face streaked with tears. She was pointing toward the far edge of the square, where shadows from the early morning sun fell long and jagged. "See," she cried, "something is coming from the forest, something unnatural." Obinna's heart raced. He edged closer. The villagers parted slightly, muttering nervously. From the tree line bordering the square, a faint glow flickered, subtle at first, like the shimmer of heat on the horizon, but growing steadily, almost beckoning. Obinna's pulse quickened. It was familiar, that same quiet, impossible glow he had seen on the girl's wrist the night before, the same warmth from the seed in his bag. Something deep inside him recognized it as a signal. He felt an almost magnetic pull, tugging him forward. The crowd murmured uneasily, some children crying, dogs barking, yet he could not stop. A rustling came from a nearby stall. A basket of mangoes toppled over, scattering across the dusty ground, but no one touched them. Then the glow from the forest seemed to pulse, and a soft hum, almost musical, threaded itself into the air. "Obinna," the voice whispered again, louder this time. "Do not hesitate. Go. Do not fear." The villagers watched, frozen, as Obinna moved toward the forest's edge. Each step felt heavier than the last, yet liberating. The glow now revealed a path that had never existed before, winding between twisted roots and thick underbrush. The girl's presence lingered in the air, even though she was gone. Obinna's mind flashed to her eyes, ancient and knowing, and he realized that she had not merely been hungry, she had been waiting for him to act, waiting to awaken something dormant. He stepped onto the path, and as he did, the forest seemed to lean closer, listening, alive in ways he had never imagined. A faint breeze carried the scent of earth and rain, of hidden flowers blooming in places untouched by human hands. Obinna knew without doubt that this was only the beginning. The ordinary world had shifted. Shadows were alive. Whispers were no longer contained in imagination. And the life he had known, the quiet, predictable life of repairing tools and eating modest meals, was gone forever. Behind him, the market buzzed with confusion and fear. Before him, the forest whispered secrets in a language only the brave or the foolish could understand. And somewhere deep within, a small, faceless girl smiled. Obinna's feet sank slightly into the path.
To the left, the trail was dark and overgrown, twisting into a dense canopy where sunlight barely reached the forest floor. To the right, the path glimmered faintly with the same golden light that had appeared on the girl's wrist. Obinna hesitated. His mind screamed with caution, but the seed in his bag pulsed as if urging him to choose. The voice he had heard in the market whispered again, this time from inside him, not the air. "Fear obscures the truth. Choose the path that calls, not the one that comforts." He took a deep breath and turned to the right. Each step forward seemed to dissolve the forest around him, replacing it with shimmering shapes of animals, spirits, and memories he did not recognize. A faint trail of golden dust followed his feet, and the path seemed to widen, welcoming him. Soon he reached a clearing where the trees arched high, forming a natural cathedral of intertwined branches. In the center stood a small pond, its water perfectly still, reflecting the sky above like glass. Around it, flowers bloomed in colors he could not name, petals shimmering with faint iridescent light. The air was thick with magic, yet serene, and Obinna felt a rare, grounding peace for the first time that morning. As he approached the pond, the water rippled without wind. A figure emerged, not from the surface, but from the very air above it. She was the girl. Her hair now flowed freely, braided with tiny beads that glittered like stars. Her dress had changed to a simple white garment that glowed softly, and her eyes? Her eyes were no longer those of a frightened child, but ancient, deep, filled with knowledge that spanned centuries. "You came," she said, her voice echoing both near and far. "Few do." Obinna dropped to his knees. I don't understand. Who are you?" "I am what was given to you, and what you have given to me is only the beginning. That seed in your bag, it is not ordinary. It carries the essence of a world forgotten, a power waiting to be awakened. But awakening requires choice, courage, sacrifice." Obinna swallowed hard. The weight of her words pressed down on him, heavier than any tool he had ever lifted. "What must I do?" She gestured to the pond. "Look and see what is hidden. Do not fear what appears. The world you know is a fragment. Beyond this pond lies the truth, and the truth will change everything."
Obinna knelt at the edge of the water, staring at his reflection. For a moment he saw nothing unusual, but slowly the water shifted, revealing visions beneath the surface, his village aflame, strangers walking roads unknown, shadows moving with intent, and a figure resembling the girl standing in a place beyond time, watching. Fear gripped him, but the seed pulsed against his chest. Its warmth whispered courage into his veins. Obinna realized that the girl had not just come to him. She had called him forward, challenged him, and now he could not retreat. The pond shimmered once more, and the girl stepped closer, her bare feet silent on the soft grass. "Every step you take from here," she said, "is a step into a world where nothing is as it seems. Are you ready, Obinna? Because once you cross, there is no return." Obinna looked down at the seed in his hands, feeling its pulse in sync with his own. He nodded, determination hardening within him. "I am ready." The girl smiled, faint and knowing, and the pond began to glow brighter, wrapping them both in a halo of light. The forest around them vanished, replaced by a world suspended between reality and dreams. And as the first ripple of this new world touched his feet, Obinna knew there was no going back. The path had waited for him. Now it was time to walk it. The moment the pond's glow enveloped him, Obinna felt the earth vanish beneath his feet. The forest, the clearing, even the familiar red dust of Umuoa all disappeared in a blink, leaving him suspended in a strange, pulsating void. Colors he had no words for swirled around him, deep violets that whispered, greens that hummed, and golden threads of light that seemed to move with purpose. The air was thick yet breathable, alive, vibrating with energy that touched his bones and made his heartbeat echo. The girl stood beside him, serene and unwavering, her eyes now twin orbs of light that reflected the chaos and beauty of this new realm. She held out her hand. "Welcome, Obinna. You are no longer merely a man of tools and yams. You are a man of choice, of action, and of consequence. This is the space between worlds, the place where the forgotten, the unseen, and the waiting dwell. Few enter, and fewer leave unchanged." Obinna swallowed hard, trying to ground himself. Where are we?" "Here," the girl said simply, "here and nowhere. This is the seam of all things, the threshold where potential becomes reality. Every thought, every fear, every desire touches this place. It listens, it responds." The air shifted, carrying 1,000 whispers at once, soft yet insistent, each one a voice from a different time, a different life. Some murmured hope, others fear, and a few, older, darker, chanted words that sank into the marrow of his bones. Obinna looked down at the seed in his hand. It pulsed violently now, as if awakening fully, resonating with the world around him. The girl tilted her head. "The seed you carry is not merely earth and life. It is memory, it is choice, it is the power to bend what is hidden. But be warned, with such power comes peril. Shadows covet it. They have been waiting." Before he could speak, the void shifted again. Figures emerged, tall, indistinct, like silhouettes cast in smoke. Their movements were fluid, unnatural, yet every motion held intent. Obinna's heart froze. He sensed no immediate threat, yet instinct screamed that these beings existed to test, to measure, to draw something from those who dared step here. "You see them?" the girl whispered. "They are the Watchers, neither good nor evil. They record, they question, they challenge. To pass this place is to confront them and the truths they reflect. Look closely, Obinna. They will show you yourself. The nearest figure extended what seemed to be a hand, though it had no fingers, only shifting tendrils of shadow. The surface of each tendril reflected a memory that was his, yet not his. Scenes from childhood flickered, the day his mother had died, the moment he chose to repair a sickle rather than save a goat, the night he fed the girl, and the stirrings of courage that had led him here. Obinna felt each memory weigh on him, both as regret and revelation. The watcher's tendrils brushed against his mind, forcing him to confront the choices he had buried or ignored. "You cannot hide," the girl said softly. "Every decision has shaped this moment, every act of kindness, every act of fear. They will test you, Obinna. They will show you who you are and what you might become." A shiver ran through him. The void pulsed again, the light bending and twisting like molten glass. One watcher moved closer, and Obinna could feel its presence press against his chest. He thought of the girl's eyes, ancient and knowing, and drew a deep breath. "I am ready," he said aloud, surprising himself with the firmness of his voice. The watcher paused, then, without a word, it merged with the swirling colors around them, leaving only a faint ripple in the void. Another followed, and then another, until the entire space seemed to hum in recognition of his resolve. The girl smiled faintly and knowing. "Courage is not the absence of fear, Obinna, but the act of standing in it. You have begun the first step, yet the path is long. Beyond this space lies the forest of forgotten names, where those who are lost await discovery. That is where your next trial begins." Obinna felt fear and anticipation twist together like a storm in his chest. The seed pulsed gently against his palm, its warmth a promise, a guide, and a warning. "And the girl," he said quietly, "what will happen to you?"
The girl walked silently beside him.
Her presence was both grounding and unsettling, a reminder of the power that had brought him here, and the responsibility now pressing upon his shoulders. "You see it?" she asked softly. Obinna nodded, though his throat was dry. Before them, shadows began to take form. Shapes moved among the trees, shifting between childlike and adult figures, some with faces half erased, others with eyes that seemed to glow faintly. Names whispered through the air, carried by the wind in a soft, mournful chorus. Obinna realized with a start that these were the forgotten, children and adults who had been cast aside, lost, or erased from memory. Each carried a story, a fragment of a life abandoned. "They call this place the Forest of Forgotten Names," the girl explained. "All those whose names were taken, all those who were silenced, wander here. They are bound not by chains, but by memory and loss. To walk through here is to face the consequences of forgetting, and to decide whether you will restore what was lost or leave it buried." Obinna's gaze fell on a small figure huddled beneath a twisted tree. It was a boy, no more than 10, with dirt-streaked cheeks and wide, frightened eyes. He looked at Obinna as if he had been waiting a lifetime for someone to see him. Obinna knelt, holding out his hand. I am here," he said. The boy's eyes widened. You are real." "I am," Obinna said softly, "and I will not let you remain forgotten." The girl's voice echoed in the space around them. "Every soul here has a name, Obinna. Every soul has a story, but only those who act with courage can awaken them. You cannot save everyone at once. You must choose carefully, or the forest will test you endlessly." Obinna took a deep breath. The seed in his bag pulsed, vibrating against his palm, as if urging him to move forward. He understood now that this seed was more than a gift. It was a key, a compass that would guide him through the darkness. As he stepped forward, the shadows shifted again. Faces emerged, some joyful, some sorrowful, some angry, all reaching towards him. Whispers of names swirled around him: Amara, Kofi, Zainab, Obi. Each name carried a weight, a history, a life that had been forgotten by the world of men. Obinna's heart tightened. How could he remember them all? How could one man restore what time and cruelty had erased? The girl placed a hand on his shoulder. "You do not need to remember them all at once. One name, one life, one act of recognition at a time is enough to start. The forest will teach you patience, and it will test your heart. Do not fear what you feel here. Every emotion is a tool, every choice a step closer to awakening." Obinna approached the boy beneath the twisted tree, kneeling to his level. "I will help you," he said. "Tell me your name." The boy hesitated, then whispered, trembling, "Kwame." Obinna repeated the name softly, letting it roll through his mouth, as if speaking it aloud could make it real. "Kwame, you are remembered." The boy's eyes widened further, and for the first time his body seemed to shimmer, solidify, and glow faintly. He smiled, small but radiant, and the shadows around him softened, as if acknowledging the return of a lost soul. Obinna felt a warmth in his chest, one life restored, one name reclaimed. Yet the forest around him remained vast, teeming with others who waited, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. The girl's voice guided him. "Do not stop, Obinna. The forest is patient, but it will not wait forever. Each step forward is a choice, each name spoken is a victory, and each victory strengthens the path that leads to the girl who gave you the seed, the one who began this journey." Obinna tightened his grip on the seed. The path was long, the challenge immense, but he now understood the truth. He had been chosen not merely to witness this world, but to restore it, one forgotten name at a time. And as he rose to continue deeper into the forest of forgotten names, a whisper brushed against his ear. "The next name you speak will awaken more than a soul. It will awaken destiny itself." Obinna's heart raced, and he stepped forward into the shadows, ready to meet whatever awaited him. Obinna pressed deeper into the forest of forgotten names, the seed in his bag pulsing with an urgent warmth that guided his steps. The golden path from the void had disappeared here, replaced by a soft, earthen trail, tangled with roots and strewn with fallen leaves that seemed to shimmer faintly underfoot. Whispers surrounded him, soft, insistent, like a wind carrying secrets. Some names were familiar from the market, some foreign, and some he could barely pronounce, yet each tugged at his heart. The girl walked beside him, silent and unwavering. Her presence was reassuring, yet every so often she caught a glimmer in her eyes that spoke of trials yet to come. "This forest does not forgive hesitation," she warned. "You will be tested. The shadows that dwell here are fragments of memory and fear. They take the shape of what haunts you. To pass, you must confront them, not flee." Obinna nodded, tightening his grip on the seed. He had sensed it already. The air grew heavier, thicker and colder with every step. The whispers intensified, forming a chorus of voices that spoke in overlapping languages, ancient and urgent. Suddenly, the shadows shifted before him. Dark forms began to emerge from the mist,
tall and fluid, moving like smoke shaped by unseen hands. They had faces, faces twisted with sorrow, anger, and regret. One shadow, taller than the rest, moved forward, extending a hand made of swirling darkness. Obinna's heart thundered violently in his chest. "You are afraid," the shadow whispered, its voice both his own and not his own. "You fear failing them. You fear yourself. You fear the consequences of your choice." Obinna felt the weight of his life press down on him, the nights he had spent alone, the moments of hesitation, the times he had turned away from suffering. All these fears coalesced into a tangible form before him, yet the seed pulsed violently against his palm. "I am afraid," Obinna admitted aloud, his voice steady despite the trembling in his body. The shadow recoiled, shrinking slightly, but did not vanish. "Words alone cannot erase the past," it hissed. "You must act. You must prove your courage." Obinna took a deep breath and stepped forward, holding the seed in front of him. A faint golden light began to emanate from it, growing stronger with each heartbeat. The shadow lunged, tendrils of darkness swirling around him, but the light from the seed pushed back, illuminating the forest and revealing other souls hidden in the shadows, waiting and watching. "Do you remember their names?" the girl's voice asked, firm and clear. "Do you remember why you are here?" "Yes, I remember," Obinna said. "Every name matters. Every life matters." He closed his eyes and spoke aloud, the names flowing from his lips. Kwame, Amara, Kofi, Zainab, Obi. Each name carried a weight, a history, a life that had been forgotten by the world of men. Obinna's heart tightened. How could he remember them all? How could one man restore what time and cruelty had erased? The girl placed a hand on his shoulder. "You do not need to remember them all at once. One name, one life, one act of recognition at a time is enough to start. The forest will teach you patience, and it will test your heart. Do not fear what you feel here. Every emotion is a tool, every choice a step closer to awakening." Obinna approached the boy beneath the twisted tree, kneeling to his level. "I will help you," he said. "Tell me your name." The boy hesitated, then whispered, trembling, "Kwame." Obinna repeated the name softly, letting it roll through his mouth, as if speaking it aloud could make it real. "Kwame, you are remembered." The boy's eyes widened further, and for the first time his body seemed to shimmer, solidify, and glow faintly. He smiled, small but radiant, and the shadows around him softened, as if acknowledging the return of a lost soul. Obinna felt a warmth in his chest. One life restored.
Somewhere in the
one
distance
name
beyond the
reclaimed.
shadows, a faint golden glimmer promised that what he sought, truth, redemption, and revelation, was still within reach. Obinna's journey through the forest of forgotten names had grown heavier with each step. The whispers of lost souls were constant now, pressing against his mind like waves, sometimes gentle, sometimes relentless. Every tree, every shadow seemed to contain fragments of lives erased, each demanding acknowledgement. His palms were calloused from gripping the seed, but he could feel its pulse growing stronger with every remembered name. The girl walked silently beside him, her presence reassuring yet distant. Her eyes glimmered with a wisdom that felt both comforting and terrifying. "The forest tests more than courage, Obinna," she said. "It tests your ability to listen, to see, to act without hesitation. Soon you will reach the river of lost voices. It is not water as you know it. It is memory, pain, hope, and despair flowing together. To cross it, you must offer something of yourself, an act that carries both sacrifice and truth." Obinna nodded, swallowing hard. He could feel the weight of his life pressing down upon him, the sum of all regrets and small triumphs merging into a singular moment of clarity. He had been chosen to remember, to restore, and perhaps even to reshape. As they moved forward, the forest thinned slightly, revealing a wide expanse of silvery light. Before them flowed the river of lost voices, its surface shimmering not with reflection but with sound, voices layered atop one another, forming a river of memories. He could hear cries of children, whispered prayers, laughter long forgotten, and the faint hum of life unfulfilled. It was overwhelming, almost unbearable. Obinna stepped closer, his feet sinking slightly into the soft ground at the river's edge. The voices surged, calling out names he did not yet know. Each wave of sound seemed to penetrate his chest, testing his resolve. "You cannot cross by force," the girl said. "You must give a voice to what has been silenced. You must speak for those who cannot speak for themselves." Obinna closed his eyes, gripping the seed tightly. He whispered the names he had learned so far: Kwame, Amara, Kofi, Zainab. Each name sent ripples across the river, calming the chaotic voices momentarily, turning them into sparks of light that rose above the water like lanterns. The girl's eyes glowed softly. "Good, but one name will not suffice. To cross, you must offer a truth of your own, something that binds your life to theirs, something that is yours and yet universal." Obinna hesitated, thinking of his mother, of the small acts of kindness he had performed in silence, of the life he had led quietly repairing tools, feeding the hungry, and listening when others ignored the cries of the needy. Finally he spoke aloud, trembling. "I am here. I have been afraid. I have been weak, but I will not abandon those who are forgotten. Their names, their stories, their lives matter. I will tarry them, and I will act for them even when the world forgets." The river pulsed violently at first, thrashing as if testing the sincerity of his words. Then, gradually, the waves stilled, the voices softened into a harmonious chorus, intertwining with his own, lifting him and the seed in a wave of golden light. A path of glowing stepping stones appeared across the river, leading to the far bank. Each stone was carved with intricate symbols, similar to those on the seed and on the girl's wrist. Obinna realized that crossing required both trust and balance. One misstep could plunge him into the flowing memories and perhaps trap him forever. He stepped onto the first stone. The light pulsed beneath his feet, affirming his courage. The second stone trembled, testing his resolve, but he held fast, speaking quietly to the voices as he went. "You are not forgotten. I remember you." The girl followed silently, her presence now more like a guiding force than a companion. She whispered, "The river recognizes the heart that acts with truth. You carry more than a seed, Obinna. You carry responsibility. Remember it." By the time he reached the opposite bank, his mind was a whirlwind of memories and voices, yet he felt a strange clarity, as though the river had cleansed him of hesitation and doubt. The voices now formed a gentle hum, acknowledging his promise, echoing faintly in the air around him like a song of belonging. As he looked back, the river of lost voices shimmered one last time before fading into mist, leaving only the stepping stones behind, silent, golden, and still. Obinna turned to the girl. "And now, where to next?" She smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the golden light. "Beyond this river lies the Valley of Mirrors. There you will confront not what has been forgotten, but what is hidden within yourself. Only by facing your own reflection in truth and courage can you move forward towards what you seek." Obinna tightened the grip on the seed, feeling its pulse synchronize with his heartbeat. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with trials and revelations, yet he knew one thing with absolute certainty: he would not turn back. And as the shadows of the valley loomed ahead, whispers of forgotten names followed him, a reminder that he was no longer a man alone, but a keeper of memory, a bearer of lost voices, and a traveler on a path that few could ever imagine. The air grew colder as Obinna and the girl approached the Valley of Mirrors. The forest ended abruptly, replaced by jagged cliffs and smooth obsidian-like stones that reflected the sky above in unnatural clarity. Every step he took echoed like a drumbeat, and the seed in his bag pulsed with urgent warmth, as if sensing the magnitude of the trial ahead. "The Valley of Mirrors is not what it seems," the girl whispered. "Every surface here reflects more than your appearance. They reveal your fears, your desires, your regrets, and your hidden truths." Obinna swallowed hard, feeling a tremor of unease. He had already faced shadows in the forest and a river of lost voices, yet the valley seemed to reach deeper, into the core of his very being. The first mirror appeared as a massive vertical slab of polished stone, almost as tall as a building. As Obinna stepped closer, his reflection shimmered and shifted. At first it was him, Obinna, the tool repairer, the man who fed a hungry girl and dared to step into the unknown. But soon the reflection changed. His eyes were hollow, his hands bloodied, and around him the shadows of those he had failed, the villagers he ignored, the animals he could not save, the friends he had abandoned, twisted and reached out silently. Obinna staggered back, gripping the seed. This is too much," he muttered. The girl's voice was firm. "It is not too much. It is truth. You cannot help the forgotten if you deny your own failings. Look, Obinna, confront it, accept it. Only then can you move forward." Taking a deep breath, Obinna approached the mirror again. The images of failure pressed against his mind like a tide, yet he refused to look away. He spoke softly, almost to himself. "I have failed, but I will not fail again. I will remember, I will act, and I will honor the lives that depend on me." The mirror shimmered violently at first, thrashing as if testing the sincerity of his words. Then, gradually, the mirror dissolved into mist, leaving behind a clear reflection of himself, steady, determined, and alive with purpose. The seed pulsed brightly in response, as though acknowledging his courage. Beyond the first mirror lay hundreds more, stretching endlessly into the valley. Each one revealed a different aspect of himself, moments of selfishness, fear, pride, and hesitation, as well as acts of kindness, courage, and love he had not acknowledged. With each confrontation, Obinna felt lighter, yet the journey was exhausting. His arms ached, his legs trembled, but the seed never faltered, guiding him like a heartbeat in his hand. Hours or perhaps days passed. Time seemed irrelevant in the valley. Finally, Obinna reached a mirror larger than all the others, its surface black as night, reflecting nothing. The girl stepped beside him. "This is the final mirror of this trial," she said. "It will show not what you were or are, but what you could become. Be careful, Obinna. The future is as fragile as it is powerful. What you see here may tempt or terrify you. Only the truth of your heart will guide you safely." Obinna stared into the black surface. Slowly it shimmered, revealing a vision of himself standing in a city he had never known. Gold reflected his image, but more than that, he saw the people, thousands of them, looking to him, trusting him, depending on him. Around them, shadows moved, threats both seen and unseen, yet he stood firm, confident and strong. A chill ran through him. The vision showed not only power but responsibility, an immense burden he had never imagined carrying. Yet it also reflected hope, lives remembered, names restored, wrongs undone. I can do this," he whispered. The seed pulsed violently, warming his hand until it felt as though his very blood was ignited. The mirror shimmered one last time and then dissolved into golden light, opening a path that led out of the valley. The shadows lifted, the air grew warmer, and Obinna felt as though he had been reborn, not just as the man who fed a homeless girl, but as someone chosen to wield courage, memory, and purpose. The girl smiled faintly. "You have passed, Obinna. Few can endure the Valley of Mirrors. Few can confront themselves so fully. But the greatest trials are yet to come. Beyond this path lies the city of forgotten promises, where you will face not memories, but choices that shape the lives of others. Are you ready?" Obinna tightened his grip on the seed. "I am ready," he said firmly, the resolve in his voice stronger than ever. The valley behind him dissolved into mist as he stepped forward, leaving the mirrors and the fears they reflected behind. Every step carried the weight of the past and the hope of what was yet to come. And somewhere, just beyond the horizon of this strange, ever-shifting world, the city of forgotten promises waited, whispering his name, beckoning him toward destiny. The path ahead shimmered like molten gold, leading Obinna out of the Valley of Mirrors and into a world unlike any he had ever known. As he emerged, the landscape stretched wide and vast, revealing the city of forgotten promises. Towering structures of marble, glass, and shimmering light rose into the sky, their surfaces engraved with countless names and symbols that seemed to pulse with life. Bridges arched over rivers that reflected the heavens themselves, and streets twisted in impossible patterns, like the city was alive and aware of every step he took. The girl walked beside him silently. Her eyes were bright, almost luminous, reflecting the city's light. "This is a place where promises once made and broken linger," she explained. "Every whispered vow, every commitment abandoned, every word left unfulfilled manifests here. Some are gentle, seeking resolution. Others are heavy, almost sentient with sorrow and anger. You must navigate this city with care. The seed you carry will guide you, but your choices will shape the fate of those within." Obinna's heart pounded. The weight of the seed pulsed insistently against his palm, reminding him of the lives he had touched and those yet to be restored. "And the girl, the one who gave me the seed, will I find her here too?" he asked quietly. She shook her head, her eyes fixed on the glowing streets. "She is the spark, you are the fire. She brought the seed to awaken you, but what you do now, here, will honor her and all she represents. The city will test you, Obinna. It will tempt you with power, distract you with fear, and confront you with impossible choices. Are you ready for that?" Obinna swallowed hard and nodded. "I have to be." The first street they entered was lined with statues, each representing a person who had been betrayed or abandoned. Their faces were frozen in expressions of longing, anger, or sorrow. As he passed, whispers reached him, names, grievances, forgotten dreams. Some he recognized faintly, echoes from the forest of forgotten names. Others were entirely new. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the street. A figure taller than any man, clad in shifting darkness, blocked his path. Its voice was like a chorus of broken promises. "Who dares to walk here? Who dares to claim the right to mend what was forsaken?" Obinna gripped his seed and said firmly, "I am Obinna. I carry the lives, the names, and the stories of those who were forgotten. I will restore them." The shadow laughed, a sound that shook the air and rattled the city's delicate structures. "Many speak such words, few act. The city will test you, Obinna. Every choice you make here will ripple outward. One wrong step and promises will shatter beyond repair." The girl stepped forward, her presence steadying him. "Do not falter. The seed guides the way, but your heart determines the path. Remember why you are here." Obinna took a deep breath and stepped past the shadow. The city responded instantly. The air shimmered, and pathways previously invisible became clear. Streets twisted into corridors of light, revealing hidden passages lined with memories, some joyous, some painful. He understood that each path offered choices: to restore a life, to mend a promise, or to leave it to fade. He came to a square where hundreds of voices spoke at once. Figures of men, women, and children appeared, each trapped within golden cages of light, their faces etched with despair. One small boy looked directly at him, eyes wide and pleading. He recognized him instantly, a name from the forest, a life nearly forgotten. "Kwame," Obinna whispered. The boy's cage shimmered and dissolved into nothingness. A wave of warmth spread through the square, and the voices softened, almost sighing in relief. The girl's eyes glimmered. This is only the beginning. The city holds countless souls, and many promises are tangled, impossible to resolve in one act. But every life you restore strengthens the city, weakens the shadows, and brings you closer to understanding your purpose. Obinna's pulse quickened. He realized the enormity of the task ahead. The city was alive, responsive, and demanding. Every step, every decision, every promise he honored or failed would shape not only the lives within it, but his own destiny. Obinna tightened his grip on the seed. "I will not fail them," he whispered. The girl's smile was faint but approving. "Then move forward, Obinna. The city of forgotten promises awaits, and with it your true test begins." As Obinna stepped deeper into the city, the streets pulsed with light, whispers of forgotten vows guiding him forward, and shadows stirred in anticipation. He knew one thing with certainty: nothing could prepare him for what lay ahead, and yet there was no turning back. The seed pulsed violently, almost as if urging him onward, and Obinna felt the weight of countless lives pressing gently, insistently into his heart. He was no longer merely a man who fed a homeless girl. He was the keeper of promises, the restorer of forgotten lives, and the bearer of a destiny far greater than he had ever imagined. And somewhere, unseen but ever present, the girl who started it all watched, her purpose fulfilled, for now. Obinna walked through the winding streets of the city of forgotten promises, each step resonating against the impossibly smooth stone beneath his feet. The city's towering structures seemed alive, breathing, whispering in languages he could almost understand. Shadows flickered in the corners of his vision, and names, both familiar and foreign, murmured from walls, windows, and doorways. The weight of countless lives pressed gently upon him, a constant reminder of the responsibility he carried. The girl walked silently at his side. Her eyes reflected the pulsating lights of the city. "This is first you will face the cities within the city. The Hall of Echoes is a place where promises unfinished speak their truths aloud. To enter is to face not just the consequences of others' failures, but your own. Only by listening, understanding, and acting can you move forward." Obinna nodded, feeling both anticipation and dread. His palms were clammy, but the seed in his bag pulsed with warmth, steady and insistent, as if reminding him that courage had already carried him this far. The entrance to the Hall of Echoes was an immense archway of black stone, inscribed with symbols that shimmered faintly. As he crossed the threshold, a chill swept through him. The air was dense, vibrating with countless voices overlapping, some pleading, some angry, some sorrowful, some laughing softly as if mocking him. "This hall," the girl explained, "contains echoes of every promise ever made in this city, every vow broken or abandoned, every word
"I am
left
here.
unfulfilled."
I will hear you. I will act." The seed pulsed brighter, sending waves of light through the hall. One by one, certain shadows slowed, their forms solidifying as Obinna acknowledged them aloud. Names, faces, and stories unfolded with each act of recognition. But the hall was not merely a test of memory, it was a test of judgment. A faintly glowing figure appeared, its voice soft but firm. Choose which promise to restore first. Each action has consequences. Choose unwisely, and you may strengthen shadows instead of dissolving them. Obinna's eyes scanned the hall, seeing hundreds of souls reaching out in urgent silence. His mind screamed that he could not choose, yet he understood that hesitation would serve no one. He took a deep breath and focused on the seed, letting its pulse guide him. "I will start with those whose voices call the loudest," he said, pointing to a young girl whose echo trembled with fear and sorrow. "Her name is Amina." The hall trembled slightly as the echo responded, her chains dissolving into shimmering light. Amina's form solidified, her eyes bright with gratitude. She reached out and Obinna took her hand, feeling warmth and recognition pass between them. The hall pulsed in response, and a wave of clarity spread through the shadows. The girl beside him nodded. "Well done, but this is only the beginning. Each promise restored strengthens the path ahead, yet more complex echoes await. Some will challenge your perception of truth, and some will demand sacrifice. Remember, Obinna, you are not just restoring names, you are restoring hope." Obinna felt the weight of that responsibility settle deeper in his chest. The hall seemed infinite, yet he knew that moving forward was the only option. Every step, every act of recognition, every promise he honored brought him closer to understanding the full extent of the city's power and the destiny the seed had entrusted to him. He looked forward, the hall of echoes stretching endlessly, filled with voices that needed him, tested him, and would, in time, transform him into something greater than he had ever imagined. And as the shadows shifted once more, a faint whisper carried across the hall. "The one who restores the forgotten shall awaken what has been hidden, and destiny itself will bow to courage." Obinna's grip tightened on the seed. He stepped forward, heart steady, ready to face the echoes that awaited him. The city was alive, and so was he, and neither would relent until every promise had its voice once more. The Hall of Echoes had tested Obinna in ways he could never have imagined. Each step through its winding corridors had forced him to confront truths about himself and the forgotten lives around him. Yet now, as he emerged from the hall, a new challenge revealed itself: the Bridge of Choices. The bridge stretched endlessly across a chasm of swirling light and shadow, suspended between two impossible towers of crystalline stone. Below, voices of the forgotten whispered constantly, overlapping with the hum of the city itself. The bridge appeared fragile, shimmering as if made of spun gold and shadow, and every step seemed to test both balance and conviction. "The Bridge of Choices is not a test of strength," the girl said, her voice echoing clearly in the open air. "It is a test of your heart. Every step you take will confront you with decisions that ripple outward. Some choices will save lives, some will sacrifice them. You must act with clarity, courage, and unwavering purpose." Obinna's hands trembled slightly as he gripped the seed, feeling its warmth steady him. He looked ahead, noticing that along the bridge figures appeared, some beckoning for help, some offering warnings, some whispering temptations that stirred desire or fear. Each represented a choice he would have to make, and each choice would shape the path forward.
The first figure he approached was a young boy, no older than 7, clutching a small bundle of items. "Help me," the boy whispered, "or I will fall into the shadows." Obinna's heart clenched. He reached out and grasped the boy's hand, feeling a pulse of warmth as the seed glowed. The boy solidified into a living, breathing child, safe in Obinna's guidance, and the bridge beneath them shimmered stronger, stabilizing. The girl's voice came softly. "Every choice strengthens the bridge if guided by truth, but not all choices are clear. Some will challenge you, testing your priorities, your morality, and your courage." As Obinna continued, he came upon a figure of a woman suspended precariously above the chasm. Her face was familiar, one of the forgotten from the city, her voice filled with sorrow. Yet another figure appeared beside her, whispering temptation. Save her, but risk leaving another behind, or move forward and preserve yourself and the seed. Obinna's mind raced. He could feel the pulse of the seed urging him to act. He looked to the girl for guidance, but she only nodded once, silently affirming his inner wisdom. With a deep breath, he reached for the woman, steadying her and allowing the golden light of the seed to stabilize her form. The whispering temptation dissolved into shadow. The bridge pulsed beneath his feet, responding to his courage and clarity. But it was not over. Far ahead, the path split into multiple routes, each more uncertain than the last. On one path, cries of those forgotten rose sharply, demanding anguish, demanding action. Another path was silent, but lined with shimmering opportunities, promising power or knowledge. The third path led into shadow, where whispers promised secrets of destiny if he dared to step forward. Obinna paused, feeling the full weight of the seed in his hands. Every choice had consequences. Every step rippled outward, affecting countless lives, seen and unseen. He closed his eyes and let the pulse of the seed guide him, focusing on the truth that had carried him this far. He was chosen not for power, but to restore, to remember, and to act with courage. With steady breath, he stepped onto the path into shadow, trusting that truth and intention would guide him. The bridge shifted and pulsed, golden and strong beneath him, and the whispers below softened, replaced with a gentle harmony that carried with it hope. The girl walked beside him, silent but radiant. "You have made your choice wisely, Obinna. The bridge of choices tests the body alone. It tests the soul. Every life you have saved, every act of courage strengthens the path to what comes next. Beyond this bridge lies the heart of the city itself, where forgotten promises gather to reveal destiny." Obinna tightened his grip on the seed. He felt the pulse sync with his own heartbeat. Each step across the bridge carried him closer to the culmination of his journey, a confrontation not just with the city, but with the force that had sent him here and the destiny that awaited him at the very center of the city of forgotten promises. The golden path stretched ahead, endless yet certain, and Obinna knew without doubt that the next step would change everything. Obinna stepped off the bridge of choices, feeling the warmth of the seed pulsing stronger than ever in his hands. Ahead lay a massive plaza, the very heart of the city of forgotten promises. The ground shimmered like glass, reflecting the endless skyline of crystal towers and golden streets, while the air vibrated with whispers, some joyous, some sorrowful, all persistent. "This is the center," the girl said, her voice calm but carrying a weight that made Obinna's heart race. "Every promise, every vow, every life you have restored converges here. It is a place of reckoning. The city will reveal its ultimate truth, and you will confront what you are truly capable of." Obinna stepped closer, gripping the seed tightly. He could feel the warmth spreading through his chest, as though the seed was synchronizing with the city's pulse. Whispers swirled around him, voices of Kwame, Amina, Amara, and countless others he had restored, urging him forward. A shadow descended from above, immense and dark, twisting with forms that resembled every fear and regret he had faced throughout his journey. Its voice rumbled across the plaza. "You have acted, restored, and remembered, but are you willing to bind your life to theirs, to sacrifice the safety you once knew for the lives of countless forgotten
challenge
homes?"
pressing down on him. His mind flashed back to the first time he had fed the homeless girl, to the seed, the forest, the mirrors, and the bridge. Every trial had led to this moment. Every act of courage had prepared him for the ultimate choice. "I am ready," he said, his voice steady. "I will bind my life to theirs. I will be their guardian, their voice, their hope." The shadow shrieked, twisting violently, but then began to dissolve as the heart of the city pulsed brighter, responding to Obinna's declaration. Light spread across the plaza, sweeping through the towers and streets, dissolving shadows and illuminating every forgotten corner of the city. The girl stepped forward, her eyes gleaming. "By committing yourself, you awaken the city fully. Every soul restored, every promise honored, now resonates through this place. You have become more than a man. You are a keeper of memory, a guardian of hope, and the heart of the city beats with you." Obinna felt a wave of warmth and clarity. Faces he had restored smiled at him, their voices harmonizing into a song that filled the plaza. Kwame, Amina, and countless others reached toward him, no longer trapped, no longer lost. The city itself seemed to breathe, alive in a way that transcended space and time. A soft glow appeared before him, and in it the girl who had given him the seed materialized fully. Her eyes sparkled with ancient wisdom. "You have done what few could. You have restored what was lost, faced your fears, and chosen courage over comfort. The city is awake because of you, Obinna, and now you may return, carrying with you the knowledge that one act of kindness can indeed change a world." Obinna knelt, placing the seed in the center of the heart. It pulsed violently, then dissolved into golden light, merging with the orb and sending ripples throughout the city. Every promise, every name, every life restored shone brightly, a testament to the journey he had undertaken. The plaza began to fade, the city's light slowly blending into the forest and streets of Umuoa, yet Obinna felt the pulse of the heart within himself. He was changed, transformed, bound to every life he had touched and every promise he had restored. As he opened his eyes fully, he found himself back where it had all begun, the market square, the sun warming his skin, the air rich with the scent of earth and life. Yet everything felt different. He could see the world with clarity, feel the lives around him, and know that no act of kindness was ever truly small. And somewhere in the distance, a small girl watched him with knowing eyes, smiling faintly, as if to say, the world had shifted and one man's courage had made all the difference. Obinna took a deep breath, the warmth of the seed lingering in his heart, and walked forward into the village, ready to live not just for himself, but for the countless forgotten lives he now carried within him.